Hello friends, this is Jim with Science Talk. I want to discuss with you something, a topic that you probably would not expect me to talk about, but I found this interesting, and there's a key aspect in here, a key concept that I wish to share with you, and it's more with what you do with the data than actually what this study is about, which that study is still an important one. And basically the study talks about how if your biological clock is out of sync, that this is a possible link to depression, mood swings, and other mental health issues. So most of you, I'm sure, are aware that we have circadian rhythms in our body, which is basically, not surprisingly, on a 24-hour basis, since that's the length of day on this planet. And which, by the way, before I even go any further, this becomes interesting for folks who live in polar regions where we have continual sunshine for a couple of months, 2-3 months. Like say if you go to Barrow, Alaska, the sun comes up in May and it will not set until mid-August, something like that. So you have basically 2-3 months of continual sunshine. On the flip side, the sun goes down in November and won't come back up until the end of January. And then the first day it does come back in January, it pops up for about 18 minutes, go hi, and see you tomorrow. So this, will have effects on a person's mood and general disposition. And I'll have more to say on that in a bit. So in essence, what they were looking at here is a study out of the UK, is that disrupting your body's clock may be linked to mood disorders and depression. They had 90,000 participants. They found that disruptions to the body's clocks were associated with a higher risk for mental health conditions, including depression, bipolar disorder. However, and this is the key point I want to make here, researchers caution that the study found only an association between the biological clock and these conditions. It did not prove cause and effect. This is a very important point. You can see an association. Well, this seems to happen when this occurs. No, this seems to be the end result when this happened. It's sort of like this is A, this is B. But here's the key. Cause and effect. How do we demonstrate cause and effect? Usually we do rigorous statistical testing and analysis. So and when you're looking at something like this is probably a difficult thing to measure. It's probably difficult to quantify. So oftentimes association does not prove causality. Cause and effect means causality. So that's an important thing to keep in mind, not just for what I'm sharing with you here, but for any scientific topic or research or study you're looking at, is did they show cause and effect versus merely an association. So now here's the body's so-called master clock lies in an area of the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Using light cues from the sun, the master clock determines what time it is and relays that information to your peripheral clocks, which are found all throughout your body. Most cells in our body have a cluster of proteins that rotate on and off of each other to keep time on basically this 24-hour cycle. Now, a lot of the times, the pineal gland especially, and the pituitary gland will sense the light levels and so on, and they'll release appropriate hormones to help balance our mood, be it melatonin, serotonin, and so forth. People who have SAD, seasonal affective disorder, such as especially people who live in the polar regions, typically what happens is there is not enough of these hormones produced by the pineal. People become depressed. A highly recommended solution, and this is applicable to anyone living anywhere, is if you suffer from SAD, replace your bulbs with full spectrum bulbs. Full spectrum bulbs is mimicking basically the spectrum from the sunlight, but importantly, it will stimulate the pineal and pituitary to secrete these hormones to help your mood. So yeah, you may prefer the soft, warm, light ambiance, but if you're still depressed, you might want to swap them out, put in full spectrum. And really, and studies have shown that you don't need to keep it on 24/7, but just a couple of hours every day is enough to help. So there are other factors: artificial light, the kind of work schedule that you have. Do you work night? Do you work rotating shifts? 12 to 8 for a month, 8 to 4 for another month, 4 to midnight. That will mess you up, in all seriousness. And an unfortunate consequence of that is this tends to lead to obesity issues, which then lead to other health issues, perhaps diabetes, heart disease, and so forth. So, even if you were, just with jet lag, you're going across time zones, that will mess you up. So this is a study that's published in the May 15th issue of the journal The Lancet. And basically, it was a 3-year study from 2013 to 2016 where they took 90,000 people and they asked them to wear what's called an accelerometer on their wrists that measured their movement for 1 week. So the researchers used the accelerometer data to determine if someone had a circadian rhythm disorder. In other words, if his or her biological clock was out of sync. Restless sleep, not moving during the day, or both indicated a disruption in circadian rhythms. The study found that people with a greater disruption in circadian rhythms were more likely to have major depression disorder or bipolar disorder in their lifetime than those with less disruption. These individuals are also more likely to have mood swings, higher levels of neuroticism, and loneliness. They also had lower levels of happiness and satisfaction. What's more, people who had a higher disruption in their body clocks had slower reaction times than those with less disruption. Reaction times provide an indirect measure of cognitive function. Indirect. So yes, they can measure it, but indirect. This is going back to one of the aspects of association, not causality. So, a gentleman named Aiden Doherty, he's a senior research fellow at the University of Oxford. He was not part of the study, but he added some of his critiques on the study. And he basically stated that the research cannot prove that circadian rhythm disruption causes mood or disorders. Okay, this is his take on it. It raises the question, does circadian disruption cause a decline in mental health status or vice versa? Or maybe there's a third or other factors. Now, let's look at that statement. Disrupting circadian rhythms causes mental issues, or does a mental issue then cause a disruption to the circadian rhythms? That's basically what he's stating. So, yes, there may be, this is the example of an association. The two are associated, but cause and effect has not been demonstrated because which one caused the other? Disruption of circadian rhythm, did that cause mental issues, or did mental issues cause the circadian rhythm? See what I'm trying to say? We have an association. The two seem to be linked. Increased mental disorder and disruption of circadian rhythm seem to go together. They're associated, but we don't know which way it's going. He also stated another interesting critique, that the study population, due to their age, is, this is his word, not ideal to examine the causes of mental health, given that 75% of mood disorders start before the age of 24. Circadian rhythm is known to undergo some changes during adolescence, a time that is also defined by the start of mood disorders. So basically, he goes on to say, well, this could give us a basis to conduct more research. Of course. So, as I said, I wanted to just bring this with you, share this with you. But the thing here is to talk about the difference between association and causality. And also that it's for a better, healthy lifestyle, for your better health, it's best to have a set schedule. So that you wake up at this time, you do your thing during the day, you go to bed at this time, and you be consistent. That will be, and the overall will be healthier. Anyway, hope you found this informative, and we'll talk again. Hey folks, just a reminder to please subscribe and click the bell so you know when I drop a video. And please share my work with others. Please tell them of my channel. And I hope you'll become a patron at Patreon. I place videos on there from time to time exclusively for my patrons there. If you are already a patron, thank you for your support and continued support. Details in the box below. Thanks.